entire application journey was awesome with you. I'll say you helped in realizing, okay, what all pointers you should write, how should you write, how should you portray that other person can understand. What I was thinking was not a good pointer, but you said that, okay, this is something which is a very good, you should portray it like this. After working with you on the application, the difference I realized before and after was at that time, I just wrote what I felt. I did not thought from a second person perspective.
Hi everyone, this is Piyush Ranjan. I'm the founder of Management Masters, a boutique admission consulting firm focused on the top MBA programs around the world. Today in this session, we have Avinash Kumar with us. Avinash worked with us to apply to ISB, and he's going to join ISB in a few weeks. So let's hear it from him. It's very good to have you with us, Avinash. Before we begin with the interview, could you just tell us a bit about yourself, what you have been doing, and where do you come from?
Sure. Thank you, Piyush. Thank you. To start with introduction, my name is Avinash, as you mentioned, and I am from Patna, Bihar. I completed my schooling from Patna only, and then I went for my undergrad, which I did in BTech in Computer Science from KIIT University, Bhubaneswar. Uh, so after that, I worked with three different companies into SaaS companies where I worked as an implementation consultant. And currently, just my last working day was yesterday. I worked with Volup as an project manager over there. Yeah, I am looking forward to join Hyderabad campus of ISB. Yeah.
Nice. That's really nice. Could you walk us through very quickly, like what led you to decide, that you would want to apply for an MBA at this stage of your career?
Sure. So from once I graduated from my college as well, I was not that coder or something like that. So I went for non-tech departments of different companies. I worked as an implementation consultant. Then I went for project management. So I worked in non-tech side of it. And in my current stint, I worked with different startups as well, where I helped them to grow their business, basically automate their customer support and all on business side of the things. I worked on that. So that is something which brought interest in knowing more on that field. And that's where I thought that, okay, at this point of time, MBA should be one of my goal next, so that I can get into that domain and work with different people in that space, basically.
Correct. But you come from an industry which is very overrepresented in this area, right? When it comes to an MBA program, especially as an Indian candidate, you have all the pointers which make things sort of very, very difficult for you. You are male, you are engineer, you come from the IT industry, of course, right? So apart from these three things, right, did you have any apprehensions in mind when you started thinking about an MBA, when you started thinking of applying to ISB? Uh, did you have in mind that, what could be the potential challenges that you would face or what you could bring as your strength?
Yes, I agree with that. Like, I don't have any top brand on my CV, which I don't come from I as well IITs and ITs as well. I don't have big four on my CV as well. But yeah, I thought that that can be a challenge, but those were myths once I converted ISB, because what school looks for is what I realized post getting admit is something which they focuses on the holistic approach, which on the overall profile they look for, right? Like they look for what you bring onto the table, like what impact you have made on your work. And I believe that I have made certain impact on my current work as well. Previously at High Radius and Aptio where I have worked, so I have done something on those front as well. Where apart from work, I have led different initiatives. So that is something I feel that got added and was an added advantage for me as well. Secondly, apart from during my undergrad as well, I was not that, like I was into academics, but apart from that, I was also involved in different extracurriculars as well. I had several publications as well, and I also was into graphic designing as well, which I currently do as well. And I have a dribble profile where I frequently post my different graphics. So those all aspect I believe gets added and make your overall profile, not only academics or not any certain aspect of the profile.
Pretty interesting what you're talking about, right? Uh, Now, you came with a very, very strong GMAT score, right? You had, I think, a 750 in your GMAT, right? But then it's one thing that we always hear from candidates is that they faced massive challenges while working on the GMAT, while working professionally and preparing for the GMAT, right? So could you walk us through very quickly of how did you prepare on your GMAT and what strategies helped you to sort of get such a great score?
Okay. So I started my preparation around Feb 2021. At that time, I started with OG, basic books at that time. So I started preparing from the OG only. Whenever I had doubt, I like there are solutions present on directly on the YouTube where I can search for. So that time I started with that, but then later on, like that was not consistent because with my work, it became hectic to handle. So that time I thought, okay, I'll have to be consistent in this. So what I did at that time, like it worked for me, because I am someone who need place or who need uh, place where I can sit and you can study. I cannot study at home. So at that time, I have a library nearby at my home where I signed up for. I started going there for, let's say, like I'll sit for 2 hours, 3 hours, something like that. So I made that and I continued doing for like 3 or 4 months. Uh, and then I spent that time. I had that, like once I understood that okay, I can go ahead and give mocks. Then I went ahead and gave mocks, and post that I gave the actual exam. So I
So
gave my
you
actual
did this every day for 2, 3 hours? You went to the library to
some
study.
yeah, two hours was the minimum that I spent on weekdays, and weekends it was around 4 or 5 hours.
Nice, nice, nice. Now, also when you started coming, when you came to us, you wanted to apply to ISB. You already had applied to ISB previously, right? Uh, and you had gotten through the interview, but after that you were rejected. So, could you just walk us through why did you want to apply to ISB only? Because the second time also you only applied to ISB. You did not apply to other schools internationally. So, what led you to sort of choose ISB as your destination? What was the thought process behind it? Could you just walk us through that?
Sure. Uh, so first time I also applied to ISB and I went till interview and I was rejected that time. Uh, Again, I applied this year as well. So my main motivation was I want to stay in India, and that was the main reason for that. Because I knew that if I go outside, then to get the ROI, I'll have to stay for, let's say, 4 or 5 years and then come back. But staying in India, ISB was a perfect choice where I can also get like ROI from day one. Uh, that is something which is there. Then also, uh, what extra I was getting out by studying is like peers, cohort, different people who are coming over there, and same similar in India as well. When I'm getting that code, because I'll be working here, so I have to make connections with different people who will be staying in India. So that was a other reason as well. Uh, Third was professors, because we have international professors who are also coming from those universities with where I'll be applying. So if I am getting that in India, that was my main reason basically is to choose ISP again. So yeah,
Right, right. That makes a lot of sense. But could you tell us a bit about, what did you do differently when it comes to the application itself? You had already been rejected once. So, and now that you are reapplying, what did you do differently this time that you believe allowed you to sort of have a successful sort of application this year?
right. So once I got rejected, after that I had multiple connects with different alums as well to understand what went wrong on my previous application. I connected with multiple alums. I also reached out to ISB. We had an info session where I also reached out to the ISB folk who was there to understand. Uh, so one thing that I noticed after working with you on the application is the difference I realized before and after was at that time I just wrote what I felt. I did not thought from a second person perspective that okay, what if I read application, what is this person do, right? Uh, for example, let's say I did implementation of projects. At that time, I wrote implementation of project. But what implementation and what it led to, this is what I explained in this recent application, basically. So there was a lot of changes. Secondly, while working on application as well, I basically on essays, I thought, okay, this is a topic I have to write two or different three instances, and that's all. So that time I followed that approach, but this time uh, we need instances, but it should be in a storyline manner, right? Because it should be coherent. What I'm saying in the first para should be related to second, and then third, and then conclusion. So all the flows what were there, so that is something which we work together and we work on that, right? So these are the different things that I did. Yeah.
Right. Right. Makes sense. Yeah. Thank you so much for that. Could you tell us a bit about like why did you decide to work with us? Because previously also I believe you had worked with somebody. So what led you to sort of work with us, and how was your experience? What do you think we did well as per you?
Sure, sure. So actually, if you remember, I don't know if you remember, but I reached out to you last year as well on
Okay.
LinkedIn. But I gave my GMAT and got my score on 3rd of Jan, and ISB's last date was 22nd or 23rd of Jan. And you said that we can't take you because we have a short deadline, so we cannot proceed that time with you. So that
Okay.
time, I wanted to work with you only because I followed you on LinkedIn. I read your post, and I never saw that you are trying to sell your services, right? You are showing what uh, people had gone through and what genuine case studies you have done, right? So that is what I felt at that time, and that's where I signed up this year as well, where and that was clear from our profile evaluation call, where you made sure that why you want to apply to ISP, what are those, and you pointed out different areas as well. Okay, this is something which you can improve on. This is something which is strong on your profile. So that made sure, and that's where I signed up for Admit Masters.
Right. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's very kind of you. What do you think we did well, or how did we actually end up helping you in terms of your application journey? Could you just tell us a bit about that?
And the entire application journey was awesome with you. I'll say, starting with profile evaluation call, then because we started initially, so we did not had to rush to application. We started long back where because there are different application parts. Let's say careers, what you have been doing. So those all we can complete previously, and once we get the essay, then we can work on that. So we started previously only. So working on those where you helped in realizing, okay, what all pointers you should write, how should you write, how should you portray that other person can understand. And you also made sure that I am not I'm not sh- I'm not how should I portray, like basically हल्के में नहीं ले रहा इस point को, इसको हल्के में मत ले, right? This is a very good point, you should portray it like this. So what I was thinking was not a good pointer, but you said that okay, this is something which is a very good, you should portray it like this. So that is
Right.
something which we worked on in that time, right?
I
That
think that
was,
is something which comes from that third party perspective, right? Very
yes,
often it happens, and I was discussing it with another candidate that we worked with recently. That when you do something and when you achieve something, it sounds like something very trivial. That I have done this, so anybody can do it.
like,
But when you look at it from a third party's perspective, then you realize that okay, this is not something that everybody would be able to achieve. Uh, for example, in your case, you would feel like 750 GMAT is okay. You were able to do it. It's done. What's the big deal in getting a 757? 730, 740 तो ऐसे ही आता होगा. Whereas actually,
yeah.
in some cases, people spend months and months and months and even years in trying to cross the 700 mark, right?
Mhm.
And that is something which personally we don't realize after achieving something on our own, right? So thank you for
Right,
that. That makes a lot
right,
of
right.
sense. Uh, Now that you are joining ISB, right, in a few sort of weeks, what is one thing about ISB that you're super excited about?
So So this is a very short course, and I have heard a lot of times that this will be a year of transformation. Uh, I want to experience that, how fast it can go. I want to experience that. So yeah, networking with different people, get to know who all are coming in the cohort. We know, like, we have a group where we interact with different people and we get to know, okay, this is a kernel, okay, someone from the excise department, custom excise department. So get to know from different people. Okay, that is something which I'm excited for.
Right, right. Now we move into the final section of our interview, right, where we sort of will ask you very, very simple rapid fire questions, and we are expecting very, very short answers for those as well. So let's start with the first question. What would you say is the biggest myth around MBA applications now that you have, gone through this journey? What have you realized is the biggest myth?
GMAT is not the only thing that school looks for. It's entire application that they look for, because I have failed with 751 and I have made through
Hmm.
751. So GMAT is not the only thing.
Right, right, right. That is actually that ties up into my next question, which is
Okay.
essentially, well, you can probably elaborate on this a bit. That is, how important do you think is the GMAT or GRE score in terms of the application?
Definitely, it's important. I'll not say it's not important, but it's just a check mark that school does, so that uh, they understand that, okay, you are ready for rigor that is coming to you.
Right,
Uh, so it's important. But I'll not say that other aspects are not important. They are equally important, more important as well, I'll say. Uh, Interviews also play a very crucial role in that. So yeah.
right, right. Makes sense. Uh, Now, through the entire application process, you have different aspects, right? You have the GMAT prep, you have the essays, you have the application, you have the introspection aspect, and then you have the interviews, right? What would you say was the most interesting aspect of the application process?
So for me, two journey will be most important. First was essay, where we worked together. Where I still remember, like, for one essay we have 6 or 7 drafts, where we keep on editing. So that is one of the most interesting, and how to write uh, those storylines. So that is something which I'll say was interesting. And second is interview preparation, where we realize, okay, we have done this. Now, how to tell the other person my story. So that is something which is very important as well. So that is something else.
Right, right. And what would you say was the most challenging part of the entire application process for you?
I'll say essay only, because it was, we did 6 drafts, 7 drafts for one essay. That was very challenging, because thinking of a story is very easy, but like, thinking of instances is very easy, but making story out of it is very tough. So I'll
Right,
say that one only.
right. What would be one thing that you wish you were aware of before you started your application prep?
Do enough research for the school which you are applying. That will definitely will help you.
The final question that we have is, what would be one final piece of advice that you would like to give future ISP aspirants?
Okay, ISB applicants. Don't stress much about the entire application process. It's very like, it will come along. Just focus one at a time. Let's say if you are preparing for GMAT, focus on that first. Don't think about application right now. Just get done with your GMAT, then start application, then essays, then interview. So it will come along. Don't stress much about right now. Otherwise, you'll mess up the entire thing.
I think that is a great, great advice, right? But thank you so much, Avinash. It has been a pleasure having you. It has been great experience working with you, and I wish you the best for your year of transformation at ISB.